So in today's discussion, I decided to tackle something that I never want to have to tackle again. And it required me to do the unimaginable, something I never would force even on my worst enemy. It required dedication, wit,
Such wit!
and tenacity.
Such tenacity!
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I made myself read. What's that? You said I already made that joke before. Who said it was a joke? Now, when it comes to who Subject X could be, we as a community more or less agree that it's down to 3 possible characters. Welcome to Who Wants Emotional Trauma? I'm your host, Vel, and today's gonna be a doozy, folks, so without further ado, let us meet our contestants. Coming in at number 1 is the prudent fox, Ava. One of the foretellers the Master of Masters has chosen to entrust a copy of the Book of Prophecies. She was given a role to gather a group of exceptional Keyblade wielders and send them away to carry on the light beyond the Keyblade War. Due to unknown circumstances, she did not reappear when all the other foretellers appeared in the Kingdom Hearts 3 epilogue, and her whereabouts to this day remain unknown. Now for contestant number 2, the immortal flower herself, Strelitzia, Marluxia's, or rather Laurium's, younger sister. As part of the dandelions Ava was tasked with gathering, there would be a handful of hand-picked ones chosen to be the new union leaders. Strelitzia was one of those lucky few. However, she would soon be struck down by the true darkness controlling Ventus, and he quite literally, unwillingly, and unintentionally took her spot as the new union leader. Last that she was seen, or last someone that looked like her was spotted, was by a Chirithy relaxing on a building cloaked in a white robe, until later reappearing in the Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer. Even though she's back in the mix now, her character remains an illusion and a mystery to many. And finally, coming in as the 3rd contestant on today's show, the one, the only, Skuld! Another one of the union leaders chosen by Ava. With the addition of your character in Ephemer, you 3 essentially made up the trio of Union Cross. When Daybreak Town was destroyed after the war, she escaped with the other union leaders through the lifeboats. However, while we know where everyone else eventually ended up, her final whereabouts are still unknown, and not a single word of her has been spoken since.
You okay there?
Now, before we continue on, ladies, do you have anything you would like to share with the audience today? Great! Now, let's analyze the content and determine which one of you will win Who Wants Emotional Trauma? Get it? The emotional trauma is because Subject X gets used in human experimentation and his Ansem's played you'll find out. So when it comes to Subject X, there is little to no information given about them. And because of this, the only way we can even take an educated guess as to who they may possibly be is through the process of elimination. That being said, we've got to work with what we've got. And what we've got are the Kingdom Hearts 3 secret reports. It is in these reports that Subject X was both revealed and ultimately any info regarding them would be contained. Looking specifically at reports pertaining to Subject X, with the occasional report being about Xehanort being a piece of shit. I mean, Xehanort experimenting on kids like a piece of shit. Xehanort's exploration of the product and the potential of the heart while being a piece of shit. To help better understand some of the chain of events, I'll be placing the secret reports not in numerical order, but rather what I believe to be chronological order, or at the very least as close to it as possible to form as much of a coherent story as we can. So without further ado, let us start at the very beginning. Secret Report number 3. Experiments of the Heart Notes on Subject X. Subject was found in the central square shortly after dawn. Female, approximately 15 years old. After 7 days... Wait. 7 days?
あなたはこの世界に来て7日間ずっと眠っていたの。
Okay, Nomura, we get it. You like the number 7. Anyways, after 7 days' observation, she spoke her first words, but could not provide a name. Subject exhibits signs of profound amnesia and displays concern about which world this is. Her words suggest that she departed her homeworld with others, though she cannot recall the names of her erstwhile companions. All efforts to explore those memories have been met with a rejection response. After his initial experiments on me, Ansem the Wise ceased his research into the heart, his hand stayed by some fear I cannot fathom. Yet this new subject is like me, devoid of memories. She is the perfect sample upon which to continue my master's work. She too could benefit from it. By traversing the heart, we have a direct path into memory. I myself have begun to reclaim my lost past thanks to these very experiments. Who is she? Whence has she come? These are questions no scientist could ignore. In the words she muttered, "May your heart be your guiding key." Subject X is a character introduced in Kingdom Hearts 3 when various characters throughout the game continuously brought up this missing girl in multiple instances. From Ansem to Aiza and Lee, she seemingly had connections that ran deep, and with the help of the secret reports, we can find out why. The connection at all these characters that had connected them together is their ties to Radiant Garden, further backed up by Secret Report number 5, Memoirs Excerpt 1. The castle was a wonderland to us children. Within its walls, Ansem the Wise conducted his research, and the fruits it bore allowed everyone outside to live in peace and happiness. That alone was enough to stoke our interest, though not all rumors that escaped its walls were so benevolent. By night, the muffled sounds of human wails emerged. There was talk of dangerous human experimentation. Lee and I couldn't help but hatch a plot to steal inside and sate our curiosity. One day, we finally secured our entry. We descended the long spiral stair at the heart of the castle to find a dark space below it, lined with cages. There wasn't light enough to see if they were inhabited, and we were in no position to call out to any occupants within. Yet we could feel it, a definite presence. There, in the black. Terror washed over us, and we immediately regretted coming. But just as we turned to flee, we heard the faintest of voices. The urge to run was nigh overpowering, but someone or something beckoned us on. There, framed by a tenuous sliver of light, we found her, Sayax. Every time I read this, specifically the part about the experiments, it reminds me just how serious this runs, and potentially how dark the next saga of Kingdom Hearts very well may be compared to the last. But I digress. Let us continue. Secret Report number 1. Recollections. Am I alive? I awoke in a cell, alone, until the researchers came with their tests and their prodding to uncover my identity. I had no answer to offer them, or friends, and a key that is the sum total of my memory. I could not even recall my name. I was simply called X there. My only solace was the time I spent talking with 2 boys who would visit from time to time. One day, a man came to take me from the prison. I could not see him for the darkness save that he wore an eye patch. Even now, years on, I feel no closer to understanding who or what I am. May my heart be my guiding key. Unknown. Secret Report number 6. Memoirs Excerpt 2. It was too dim to make out her features. We spoke to her in hushed whispers. Who was she? Why was she imprisoned here? She had no answers for us, had no memories at all. She was an enigma, but I knew that I wanted to help her. And so we continued our infiltrations. Most of them stopped short at the castle gates, but when we did manage our way inside, we spoke with her. This was all the comfort 2 children like us could offer, but Lee had other ideas. He was determined to free her. We slipped into the castle that day, knowing that all that we wanted with all our hearts was to save her, but we did not find her inside on that day or the next, or any of the subsequent visits. Had she been moved? Had we simply imagined her? Lee and I knew there was only one way to be certain. And so we stand before the castle gates today, not as trespassing children, but in order to become Ansem the Wise's newest apprentices, Sayax. Experiments of the Hearts, Notes on Subject X, Excerpt 2. Subject's memories have not returned, and our conversations remain less than lucid. What fragments can be gleaned evoke a bygone world, like one out of fairy tales. As improbable as it seems, the question may not be where she has come from, but when. If she truly has crossed through time, the prospect of probing her heart is all the more compelling. My pilot studies used a handful of subjects, but none possessed the fortitude to endure them. Ultimately, all suffered mental collapse. I knew it would be a heavy blow to lose a subject as unique as she. Upon discovering the test I have been conducting, my master demanded that I cease my work immediately and destroy what research I have compiled. Worse still, he ordered the release of my remaining subjects. She is gone. Where is Subject X now? Has wise Master Ansem hidden her away? Whatever the case, I will not be deterred. I will take her place as the first subject in the grand experiment to come. Xehanort. Alright, so now that I'm done whispering sweet nothings into your ear, let's get into the nitty gritty of putting a face to the name Subject X. We'll start by ruling out who out of the 3 contestants it very well can't be. Let's begin with the most obvious case of Strelitzia. As seen within the secret reports, Subject X was found in a town square of Radiant Garden in the future. So much into the future that all the events of Birth by Sleep have already taken place and Xehanort had already apprenticed to Ansem the Wise. Strelitzia was last seen during the events of Union Cross when the True Darkness had influence over Ventus and used him to remove her from the picture. Seen fading into the light, she would go on to reappear in the Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer, presumably as Sora's new right-hand companion in the time to come. Now of course it could be a situation where she was Subject X, and when Luxu came to retrieve her, that was him then taking her to Quadratum. But as of right now, we really don't have a whole lot to back that up. But from what we do know, she has stated in the Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer that Quadratum is like an afterworld to those from the Kingdom Hearts realm. And judging from how she was removed from the equation the last time we officially saw her, it would make sense as to that being why she is in Quadratum at all. And if that is the case, she was nowhere near or had anything to do with Radiant Garden. However, going off what we know at the time, she is the least likely companion to fit the description of Subject X. Leading us to contestant number 2, Ava. The primary example as to why I don't believe Subject X is Ava is because in the epilogue of Kingdom Hearts 3, Luxu states,
I guess Ava didn't make it after all.
Meaning what?
I told her, clear as day, what it is I had to do.
And is that why you decided to exclude her?
As if. Ava had her own mission, and she carried it out.
and it is with this statement it's safe to assume that he doesn't know where or what Ava is doing. Of course, meaning he himself doesn't know anything about her whereabouts as well. Now, let us refer back to the secret reports. Specifically, secret report number 1, Recollections. Am I alive? I awoke in a cell, alone, until the researchers came with their tests and their prodding to uncover my identity. My only solace was the time I spent talking with 2 boys who would visit from time to time. One day, a man came to take me from the prison. I could not see him for the darkness, save that he wore an eye patch. As you can see here, it is stated that Luxu came and took Subject X out of the cages. We can surmise this by the description of the man wearing an eye patch, save that he wore an eye patch. Mix in the fact that Nomura doesn't give just blatant descriptions like this for no reason, as well as the time period in which Xehanort was an apprentice to Ansem the Wise as stated in his experiments, guess who just so happened to be around?
Hey, Mr. Master. Oh, come on, you don't even know your pal? Please tell me the amnesia was just a sick joke. Boy, this is some cliche. Hey, you're not Terra. Just gotta check.
If Subject X were to be Ava, Luxu would have no reason to say that he's shocked that she isn't here, but it seems that he's just in the dark as we are. And when it comes to the line, I told her clear as day what it is I had to do. It is referring to this conversation between Luxu and Ava that led to the clash that initiated the Keyblade War. As we see, he tells her not once, not twice, but 3 times what it was the master had told him to do, followed by him revealing the truth and Ava, baffled by who the real traitor is, which isn't Luxu, I could have a whole discussion about this point of view, attacks him in refusal to believe his words, thus painting him as a traitor in her eyes at the moment. So, sorry Ava, unfortunately you did not make it to the next round of Who Wants Emotional Trauma. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the real identity of Subject X is...
Sora! Dinner's ready! Come on down! Sora?
No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. Could you imagine? Oh no, it's Scold. Subject X is Scold. But why? Secret Reports 3. Experiments of the Heart, Notes on Subject X. Subject was found in the central square shortly after dawn. Female, approximately 15 years old. Subject exhibits signs of profound amnesia and displays concern about which world this is. Her words suggest that she departed her homeworld with others, though she cannot recall the names of her erstwhile companions. Now, at surface level, this obviously would be taken as her leaving Daybreak Town. Well, in general, which isn't necessarily wrong, and I hate to use that term because there is no right or wrong, but what I'm trying to say is that there's more to it. I'm sure you can all find a word that means that, but I'm too dumb. Regardless, let us break this up into two parts and go about it in the perspective of Skald in Daybreak Town, specifically the ending of Daybreak Town. Subject exhibits signs of profound amnesia and displays concern about which world this is. This is referring not to Skald leaving Daybreak Town, but specifically what world she was in. I believe that this refers to the Data world. Xehanort would have no idea of this Data world, or let alone any of the events that transpired in the past.
Please tell me the amnesia was just a sick joke.
But from Skald's perspective, she's concerned on whether she was in the Data world or the real world. Because of course, without knowing definitively for sure, it is practically inconceivable to tell whether you were in Data or in the real world. Roxas himself had lost his memories just like Skald, and was put into a Data world that if it weren't for the glitches and the outside interference, he would have never even realized. Mix that in with her signs of amnesia and her not necessarily remembering what is going on, who she is, or even her name, she could easily forget that she had made it back to the real world. Speaking of, let's touch base on that for a quick second. Why does Subject X, or rather Skald, have amnesia? Well, it appears that when one has taken a lifeboat, everything seems to be all fine and dandy. But what if the lifeboat were to get damaged during the process? If we look at when Maleficent returned to the present, it seems that she is A-okay in every sense of the word, memory and all. Alright, maybe a bit too okay. Regardless, we see her whole objective in Kingdom Hearts 3 is looking for the black box. Something that if just by taking the lifeboat caused memory loss, she would not have remembered even existed. So if taking the lifeboat is completely harmless, why do all of these wielders not remember their past? Or rather, Larxene and Marluxia. We don't quite know how the others arrived in our world, so let's just focus on what we do know. And it is clear that both Larxene and Marluxia both suffer from memory loss, otherwise they're playing some sort of 5D chess like Luxu, which simply isn't the case as seen by their reactions in this scene.
I lost to a bunch of losers like you. But could be worse. Become that geezer's heart tank? No thanks.
Oh, so now it all comes back to me.
Hey, is that a real laugh?
Yes. My heart is remembering how to feel.
Really? That's good.
And now I am on the cusp of reclaiming my identity, my purpose for being. Thanks to you, Sora.
Now, what caused their memory loss isn't clear, but we can deduce that it may have come from their loss of selves, aka becoming nobodies. If we remember when our Lord and Savior Roxas was created, he didn't so much as remember why he had the weapon that he had to begin with. Hell, if you look at it, practically the whole premise of 358 in 2 days was Roxas trying to figure out who the heck he was and why he was so important.
For the 7 days since my arrival, the name Roxas and the number 13 were all I had. Who the people around me were, what they wanted, or what they were trying to do, I had no idea.
So it's safe to say that at the moment of existence, nobodies lose the memories that they had once had when they were whole. Including the scenes from Kingdom Hearts 3 when Marluxia and Larxene are being recompleted, we see they begin to gain a form of their true selves back in some way, shape, or form. With Marluxia starting to gain his memories back, and Larxene shifting demeanor from her loud, bratty, obnoxious self back to her more calm and collected demeanor that we've seen her somebody, Elrena, to compose herself of during Union Cross.
Are you kidding? I lost to a bunch of losers like you. But could be worse. Become that geezer's heart tank? No thanks.
Along the statement that she was just along for the ride, meaning that she remembers why she was in the organization to begin with, that being, of course, because of Laurium, something that she would not say if she did not remember their past together. So it's safe to say that the reason that they entered the organization together is because when they were whole, they found each other in the Enchanted Dominion, and then Xemnas would then come across them at a later date. As we know, when it comes to those in the organization, their nobody names are their own names mixed up with the placing of the sigil somewhere within there, such as Sayax and Isa, Axel and Lee, Roxas and Sora, and you get the point. Subject X, or Skuld, could not even recall their own name, meaning that this case of amnesia is different than a typical nobody one and is significantly more severe. It could be the fact that when a nobody is created, their name just appears randomly, though the only real creation of a nobody we've seen was Roxas, and Xemnas was on him like white on rice on a paper plate in the middle of a snowstorm in Arendelle. Of course, because he was a Keyblade wielder and Sora's nobody. Basically a jackpot. Going back to Skuld, however, she did take a lifeboat much like everyone else. However, if you remember correctly, the one thing that is different between her taking the lifeboat compared to everybody else is that Daybreak Town was collapsing. And the exact moment that it collapsed was the exact moment that both she and Ephemer were about to depart in the lifeboats. Of course, we see Ephemer had remained behind with the wreckage of Daybreak Town, leading us to assume that his lifeboat did not activate at all, and he would go on to create the world of Skalad Kylum. However, Skuld is nowhere to be found, meaning that her lifeboat had indeed activated, but if her and Ephemer departed at the same time, her lifeboat had just barely gotten out of there. And with the wreckage of Daybreak Town collapsing onto the lifeboat, damaging it, it made the already probable side effect into an even more severe case of memory loss. Again, just to run you through it real quick, when you take a lifeboat into the future, your body doesn't physically travel into the future, but rather your heart does, and it is around the time that both a medium as well as someone that remembers you does your body then reform around your heart. So if the lifeboat were to get damaged in the process of your heart being transferred into the future, we can assume that that would cause a lot of damage, thus explaining the severe case of amnesia. This can be seen by the fact that Ephemer as well as Brain retained all of their memories of everything that transpired due to them, of course, not utilizing the lifeboats. Brain escaped through whatever means Luxu had when he saved him, and Ephemer's lifeboat did not activate at all, leading him to remain behind with the wreckage of Daybreak Town. If it were to activate, it's safe to say that he would be lost in the abyss and would have the same amnesia as Skuld had. So listing the chain of events in order, Skuld and Ephemer had stayed behind so that everyone else may escape through the lifeboats. When they themselves were planning to escape through the lifeboats, the castle had collapsed on them. However, unlike Skuld, Ephemer's lifeboat did not activate, luckily enough, leaving him behind and going on to create Skalad Kylum and pass down the Keyblade into the future. Unfortunately for Skuld, her lifeboat did activate. Taking the damaged lifeboat, she wound up somewhere completely random, with no sense of who she was or where she came from. Xehanort would then find her in the town square of Radiant Garden and take her into the castle to experiment on. At this time, Xehanort and Ansem have already begun their experiments of the heart. However, Xehanort was a lot more ambiguous than Ansem the Wise, where Ansem had limitations on how inhumane you can get, but Xehanort had no such thing. It needed to stroke his curiosity. Skuld, having no idea of who she was or where she came from, continued to mutter the only words that cling to her heart. May your heart be your guiding key. And due to her responses during the experimentation, Xehanort saw that it was not where she came from, but when, meaning that if she had traveled through time, she became all the more compelling of a subject to him. He would continue to experiment on her. Meanwhile, Xigbar, or Luciu would apprentice to Ansem the Wise. Of course, so that he can keep an eye on his Keyblade, such as he was instructed to do. During his time at the castle, he would run into Skuld in the cage. Just like when he saved Brain when he was told not to interfere, Skuld, another one of the Union leaders, was in danger. He would then remove her from the cages and take her someplace to hide for the time being. The only place that she would not be found. Unreality Quadratum, where she lies until it is her turn to return to the chessboard, thus ending the case of Subject X. Now, of course, I can make a case for any of these three subjects today as to why they can be Subject X. And if you guys really want that, then by all means, let me know. But in terms of the amount of details that we have now from what we have seen in the games and in the secret reports, significantly more details would align with Skuld rather than the other two. Not to say that there isn't any alignment with the other two in Subject X, but we have to go with the one that has the most connections, at least for the time being until more info is revealed. And if you ask me, I think it's only a matter of time before we see a Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer where Skuld is revealed just like Strelitzia was. And I believe it is in that moment that Subject X being Skuld will officially be confirmed. At least that's what I like to hope. It is Kingdom Hearts at the end of the day, and quite literally anything can happen. But of course, those are just some of my thoughts on the subject as of the time being. And again, any other topics you guys would like me to discuss and theorize about, by all means, leave them in the comments below. And of course, this was a little bit more on the lengthier side, but some of you in the comments have been asking for that, so I don't want to hear any complaining. Anyways, until next time, it's been Vel. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.